Hello and welcome to my channel, all for providing the answers and information and resources for group fitness managers. I am broadcasting this on Facebook, so if you happen to be watching this on Facebook, be sure to jump over to the YouTube channel so that you can subscribe to the actual YouTube channel to get notified when I'm about to go live or to get notified what's coming next in our live videos. So I normally go live Wednesdays at 2 p.m. I kind of call them my Wisdom Wednesdays. And then they are, of course, saved forever on the YouTube channel. So today we're finishing up a series of the hiring process as a group fitness manager. And I will admit it's a robust hiring process that I highly recommend that group fitness managers use. There are several steps to the hiring process, and I've gone through not only an overview in each of these videos, but also the significant parts of the hiring process when hiring a new group fitness instructor. And I feel like it's timely here in 2021, the beginning of 2021, as we start to rebuild our teams of instructors and we start to set this very clear expectation for ourselves, because we've learned so much about not only the instructors who teach for us now, but the instructors and the future instructors we want to bring onto our team in order to thrive in the environment that you've created with your group fitness team. And I've seen our team really grow over this time, and I look forward to bringing on new instructors. But I feel like, and I hope you're feeling this way too, feel free to mention this in the comments, if you're feeling as a group fitness manager that you're really starting to understand just how incredibly important it is to you to hire the right instructors from the very beginning, so that we can just keep getting stronger together as group fitness teams in the industry. So once you've subscribed and watched the previous videos, you can jump to this one. If you're all caught up, this interview process video is about the second interview. And in my description of this video, I shared, yes, second interview, because I know I've run into group fitness instructors who've gone to places to become an instructor for, and the manager is very frantically trying to fill a spot, and we'll talk in future videos on how to prevent that feeling. But they basically know the instructor is breathing and they can talk well and they have a little bit of experience. That's not enough for me to decide if that person belongs on the group fitness team, that I lead. So I highly, highly recommend that you take the time and you make the time and you create the time to go through this entire process. And so once again, we start with an overview of the hiring process with that initial interview. Once you've, of course, read their resume or they've reached out to you somewhere, then you've done the audition. We went through how to set up the audition, how to actually host the audition with the instructor, and then we've planned for a second interview, and that's what today's video is all about. And just to reiterate the importance of this hiring process, it provides your team with more trust in you as their leader when they know and can believe that you are working through this process and putting so much work into making the right decision, to hiring the right instructors to join their team of instructors. And really showing your team that you're leading them with that mentality that it's never about just one instructor. It's about the team of instructors and who's going to fit well and help the team thrive. And it really helps your team become more confident in their ability to continue teaching with you and to provide feedback to you, especially if they're a part of that hiring process, if they have the opportunity to attend the audition. And then something that I'm becoming more and more in tune with in other trainings that I've been attending and learning from others is that there's this, if you can create this atmosphere of how special your team is, and in some cases I've heard it's kind of like this like red carpet or this I want to say cult, but it's this very confident, again, team. I love the word team of instructors that is very difficult to earn your place in. And so you're kind of, by setting this stage with this more intense hiring process, you have a higher chance of helping that instructor who earns their place on that team to feel like they are really special, and that by being on that team, they need to continue proving themselves, continue learning, continue striving to be the best that they can be. And it'll make that act of becoming a part of the team so much more special. So the more you can make this, and I'm not saying you should put applicants through all these unnecessary homework and unnecessary hoops to jump through. It should all serve a purpose, but it's all very important to pay attention to the details so that that insight helps you see into the future and identify if they are going to thrive on your team for as long as possible. So those are just really the reasons I want you to think about and resonate with when you think about this longer hiring process and how it would hopefully work with your team and how you can make it happen. And I'll give you some secrets and strategies at the end of this video that can help make that process easier, but still includes all of those pieces. So again, today we're talking about the second interview. We have at this point gotten to know the instructor, knew that their personality would work well with your team and with you as their leader. Then you've invited them for the audition. You've given them clear expectations on what to do for that audition. They've auditioned for you and done an outstanding job, not just in how they taught the class, but also in how they showed that they're consistent in how they describe their class and also in the interview, and it also resonated in their audition. So it was very, very clear that they knew what and how and why they teach the way they do. Then after the audition, you give them some feedback and then ask them to return for a second interview. And it doesn't mean you have to whip out your calendars right then and schedule it. Usually I will reach out to the instructor who auditioned, provide them with, of course, a thank you for auditioning for us. And hopefully they have already sent you a big highlight that I've seen from some of the best instructors, that they've sent me a thank you before I get the chance to reach out to them. I guess I'm old school like that, but I love receiving that thank you for the opportunity to let me audition. I look forward to hearing more feedback. I love getting those emails. So if you're an instructor watching this, make sure you do that. I've even gotten cards before, handwritten cards, and that's just a level above that email. They took the time to come in and drop it off at the front desk. Those are huge. But from there, you've done the audition, you've seen that you've enjoyed their class, and you've invited them to a second audition. At this point, I would email them, give them the details on when you're available for that second audition, and then provide the feedback again in writing, and then ask them to be prepared to ask you any other questions in the second interview, and give them a rundown of what to expect, because it's common that instructors don't always have a second interview. Like I alluded to earlier, a lot of instructors just show up to a club, they show that they have a little experience and they can vocalize how to teach a class, and then they're hired. That's not enough for me. It should be more of a process than that. So the second interview, since they're not used to having that as part of the hiring process, give them an explanation of what the reason behind that interview is. So I usually will tell them, this is your opportunity to see a day in the life of what teaching as a group fitness instructor at this location is like. I am so excited to meet with you and talk again and answer any other questions that might have come up. We're going to review the policies we have here at the club. We're going to review the uniform or whatever show, so clothing standards you may have. Show them what that looks like. Give them a clear visual of what it's like to work for that facility. Any other additional softwares that they might need to learn. You don't have to teach them all of it, obviously, right now, but giving them a glimpse into the work they need to do to work for your club is going to be really important. So help them understand what you're going to do for that interview, and the reason why it's important might even be helpful in that email. And then plan for that second interview. So provide them with the days and times that you're available to meet with them. Meet up with them at the front desk, escort them to the different studios. And at that point, I usually will tour them around the entire facility. So they may have only seen the group fitness space. Showing them around the entire facility, I use it as not only a way to share all of the other amenities maybe that your club has, but just how important you see that group fitness is a part of the entire ecosystem as your club, and how you basically are trying to help them understand that that's important for them to understand as well, that it's not just about group fitness. It's also about the facility ops team. It's about the personal trainers you might see along the way as you're escorting them around the club. Introduce them as you do this and help them feel like it's important in your facility, in your culture, to be a part of the greater ecosystem. So show them the spa, show them if you have a pro shop, if you have different parts, if you have obviously aquatics or racquetball, show them those different areas, introduce them to people you may know along the way, and educate them on how important these other departments are and how important it is for instructors to get to know all of these other departments and how you work with those departments. So help show them around the club, then walk them through a day in the life of an instructor. So maybe there's a place they have to go behind the scenes in order to clock in for their classes, or they have to obtain keys somewhere, or if they needed to put something in your box, they would put it there. If there's some place they need to deliver something, or if they're taking attendance in an area of the club, then where they can do that. So show them those different behind the scenes areas so that, again, they can imagine their life teaching there. Who knows how the second interview will end? I have yet to have anyone who said they're not interested after the second interview, but it's an opportunity for them to say, you know what, this seems like a lot of work. I am not, even though you may have alluded to these things earlier, like you said that you'd have to wear a uniform, they might be like, you know what, I actually decided I'm not comfortable wearing a uniform anymore. And then there you go, no problem. Thank you for applying. Thank you for your time. It's a lot less work to discover it in that moment, as disheartening as it may be, than it is to find out a few weeks down the line that they don't want to wear the uniform, and then they just don't wear parts of it, and then it becomes frustrating and you have to write them up, and then they're not happy and you're not happy. It's also going through this process is understanding that you're trying to help them be the best instructor they can be within the facility, as well as you be their best leader. And if they're not a good fit, then it's not going to make you a great leader either. So think about that as well. That's another reason why it's so important. So in that second interview, you're taking them around the club, you're showing them around the different spaces, the microphone, all of those things, and then giving them a day in the life of an instructor, the processes, the procedures, and then reiterate not only the requirements on a daily basis, but what certifications they need to maintain. If they have their CPR certification, when and how they need to get that, or to get recertified. Can they do that in-house, out-of-house? What are the other things they need to do? And then give them lots of time. Usually the second interview takes no more than an hour. Lots of time to ask questions. At this point, they may have received an offer letter from you. I most likely will send an offer letter either before the second interview so we can discuss it if we need to, and how much they would get paid and what kind of meeting rate they would have. And we might discuss it in that meeting, or I'll follow up with it afterwards, after that meeting. But give them an opportunity to ask some questions in that second interview. And if you have decided at this point they're a good fit for your team, then tell them. I would say I've witnessed so many interviews in my life when I've watched other managers that I can't help but put myself in that applicant's shoes, that if it's really, you have this internal gut feeling this person is going to be phenomenal on your team, and they have done and said and experienced everything correctly. They've gone maybe above and beyond by attending classes already, or watching other classes from your instructors and expressing interest in how well they think that your team teaches, and they just really seem like they're going to work well, then tell them, we're working on making sure that we are able to hire you if you accept the position. Because otherwise you're just kind of hanging and stringing them along during this long process. So it's important to, if you know that it's going to work out, to tell them. So that's the second interview. It gives them an opportunity to have that last chance to skedaddle, and it gives you the opportunity to maybe answer some questions that they haven't had the opportunity to ask yet that may be a red flag for you. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but if there's something that just seems kind of unusual that they're asking right away, they might surprise you with, hey, I'm actually moving in 2 weeks. Is that going to be a problem? Yes, that's going to be a problem. So that's where that second interview can help avoid those issues in the future. And after that second interview, offering them the position and then starting the onboarding process, which is going to be a whole other video series for this channel. But the next thing I want to talk about are a couple of bonuses of what I've learned in this new fitness landscape in hiring an instructor recently. One is that, and then obviously I'll share some strategies on how to make this easier if you don't have the time for 4 meetings with this person. First is this instructor who we recently auditioned. She had her own Facebook group, and we had the hardest time getting her scheduled to work with ours in order to schedule her audition. So I finally was like, I'm going to go ahead and reach out and ask if she has any virtual classes that I could watch to prepare myself for what to expect in her audition. And maybe I watch those virtual classes and I'm like, whoa, she just obviously doesn't quite understand what we're looking for, and maybe it doesn't work out right then. By watching her virtual classes, I was able to see her personality. I was able to experience her cueing. The one thing I would caution you is to only depend on a virtual class when hiring an instructor, because here's the difference. Especially if they're teaching for a community of people they know really well, the way they teach to that community virtually is going to be very different, and teaching virtually is very different anyways, especially if it's only virtual and they can't see the participants. That's a huge difference. In this case, that's what it was. It was a one-way stream. And she happened to have the recordings. I watched them. And I have to admit that I wasn't super jazzed. I saw her teach. I was able to get that preview like I mentioned. But when I was like, you know what? I haven't seen her in person. Let me see her teach in person. It was a huge difference seeing a very different instructor come into a more kind of professional environment. Obviously auditioning for a class, they're eager for the position. So it was a very different experience from what I watched online. So I caution managers to immediately make decisions only based on their virtual classes. So be really careful about that, because I hope we continue to encourage that in-person experience if we can, or if we need to do something virtually, that we do a live stream where it's one-way or two-way with that specific audience. And then the second strategies that I want to share with you are to do group auditions. So if you are preparing for a class that needs more instructors, really prepare for a group audition. Do your best to get as many instructors to teach together. And what I would do is do like 10 or 15-minute audition sections for 4-ish instructors. I don't know if I do much more than that. Give them an opportunity to do a little bit of a warm-up, whatever class that they're auditioning for, and then call it a day. But the group audition can add this. Not only does it save time and energy for you as the manager, but it adds another layer of insight into how they act around other instructors. How do they behave when they're attending someone else's class? And how do they interact with those other instructors? Do they introduce themselves? Do they ask their names? What does that kind of interaction look like? That's a really easy way to make that a bit easier for that group audition. So that's a huge time saver. We've done that several times in our facility and found it was very useful. And then that way you're kind of comparing the instructors right away in that process. And then potentially you do the second interview with multiple people as well. That is an opportunity. I would say the initial interview where you're really hearing their story and getting to know them as an instructor, I would say do that individually. Don't try to rush that one. That's all I have for you guys today when it comes to that second interview, but I cannot emphasize enough how important that second interview is. It's, again, that opportunity for you to find any other reason for the instructor to either work for you or not work for you, and it really helps, again, level up that number of times they have to see you, that number of times they have to come into the club, and it provides them with this feeling of, man, if I could get this position, like they really, really take their time in hiring people, they really care about who they hire, they'll feel like they won the lottery in working with you and your team, and it'll add so much more value to their role. And again, the better the instructor that fits with your team, the better you're going to work as a leader for them, and in turn, they're going to teach the best that they can for you. I hope this was really helpful, insightful. We're going to start a new series coming up in the final days of this month, and we'll start to introduce really the concept of rebuilding and being strategic when it comes to virtual or digital and in-person classes. It's something I'm continuing to learn, but I might as well just share what I've learned and what I see in the future right now. So that's going to be our next series of videos, is reaching into that digital space and how we can, as group fitness managers, get strategic and smart about how we promote and create the different types of formats for virtual and in person, and we get really strategic with our teams and our clubs. I hope again this second interview series video was helpful, and please make sure you subscribe to the channel so that you are the first to get information in the YouTube channel. And I'll see you guys next week, same time, same place, Wednesdays at 2 p.m. Thanks for watching.